Before I get into this book, I just want to say, whoo child, it had a lot going on. Hola mi gente, MsMalcolmHughes here, coming to give you another book review. And today we are going to review the long-awaited sequel to The Children of Blood and Bone. And that is none other than The Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. Now, before I give you my opinion, I'm going to give you a character breakdown just so we can all remember who's who and what's happening here. Also, for those of you who haven't seen it, please feel free to go check out my review of The Children of Blood and Bone, which is available here. So yeah, let's just get right into it. So, our main characters are Zelly, who is the protagonist of the story. She's the one who brought magic back, and she's the one who's on the cover. It's essentially her story, or it should be. Next, we have Amari, who is the princess, who is the one who initially stole the scroll and begged Zelly in the market to help her, which then started all of us on this journey toward bringing magic back. She's the princess, her father is the king, her mother's the queen, and she has her brother, Inan. He's an interesting character because it goes back and forth. You don't really know if he is an ally or an enemy, but he is someone who does become one of Zelly's main love interests. We also have Zane. Zane is Zelly's brother, and it's weird because he should have a significant role, but honestly, in the series, he ends up getting pushed toward being Zelly's brother or Amari's love interest. We'll talk more about that later and how I feel about it. And then in this book, we also have Rowan. And Rowan, if you all remember, is the mercenary from the first series. He is seemingly not from Africa, at very least not from the country in Africa where all of our other characters are from, and he's different, from a different culture, brings a different dynamic, and has a ruthlessness to him that is sometimes very, not only intriguing, but is also a welcome change. So those are our 5 main characters, really the first 4 being the solid core, and Rowan has like a reoccurring role that somehow makes him a mainstay. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get into this book. Y'all, let me tell you, this book pissed me off so badly in a way that I really wasn't anticipating. I, like most of you, if you saw the review, it was one of the best books that I had read in a really long time. I gave it rave reviews, so I'm only expecting the best when picking up the second book and diving into it. First thing I can say is, let's go over the storyline. So at the end of The Children of Blood and Bone, we have them having brought magic back, but it being at a significant cost, with Zelly losing her father and seemingly everyone that she loves. She has been betrayed by Inan, and we see them in a boat. Once she comes to, we see that individuals who didn't have white streaks before, i.e. Amari, now has a white streak in her hair. She doesn't have a full head of white hair, but the white streak says that she does now have magic as well, though she is not a magi herself. So with that, we have 3 groups of individuals who are in the series. We have the Magi, which is what Zelly is, someone who is born of magic descent. We have the Titans, which is what Amari and we find out her mother is, and Inan, which are individuals who are of the royal line, not of magi descent, but who now have magic as well. And then we have the Kosadon, which is what Inan could be considered because he doesn't have magic. Those are the non-magical individuals, right? Cool. So in this story, we have the Magi and the Titans going against each other to see who will be in power, who will rule Orisha, and trying to get rid of the throne altogether. The issue with this one is that we see there are a lot more magical folks than before. With Zelly trying to bring back magic and having used blood magic to bring it back, she has triggered something that she cannot understand, and it has ripple effects, and that being Titans. So the Titans are seemingly much more magical, much more powerful, but the thing is, magic is not natural to them. So the magic that they harness often overwhelms them and harms them, and sometimes in some cases even kills them. So now that is a big part of this story. Breaking down and understanding the complexities of the magic and what does it require to be magical, what do you do with that gift, and who actually deserves to harness it. And that honestly is a lot of what this book is about. There are tons of fight scenes. There is a lot of action. Honestly, I would say it happens too quickly sometimes. Like, there's too many things going on at once. I didn't feel like the author did a good job of dropping us into these characters' worlds and really allowing us to get to know them in order to truly be empathetic to their plight. Sometimes I feel like she was trying to get through too many things at once. But the story itself just felt rushed and disrupted. There were parts that just didn't feel cohesive, and it made this a really challenging read for me, which was really disappointing because I was looking forward to it so much. With that being said, all is not horrible in this book. Like I said, we do have this storyline. One thing that is interesting about it is that you do have these multi-tiered family disruptions. So that's a big part of this book too. Family trauma and discord, mainly with the royal family. So you see Zélie, Inan, and their mother, the queen, who are going against each other. And it's hard to know who to trust. And sometimes when you trust someone, there's a betrayal. And sometimes once information is found out, you start to question whether or not you are on the right side at all, ever, right? So I think that's a big part of this. For Mari herself, she tries to do the right thing, but even though she hated her father and the type of king that he was and the type of man he was, that is still something that sticks with her. He's always still in her ear, even though he's no longer alive. His voice, the memories urging her on. It even gets to a point that she does something so ruthless that is outside of herself, but she feels that in order to really battle her mother and to save Orisha, the entire time she's trying to save Orisha, that is her goal. But in that, we often see that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? So she really tries, but in a sense, she fails a lot in this book. She battles herself, but she was still one of the more favorable characters in this book. I can say Inan in this story, he, for many people, has been a frustrating character throughout. I did not mind him so much. In the first book, I more so understood his internal struggle between magic and growing up as someone who was taught to hate magic and then realizing you yourself have magic and trying to reconcile those two. Also trying to be a loyal prince and diligent son to your father, but then understanding that that's not the right thing. But then in the end, he was a very unfavorable character because he ends up doing something that betrays himself and those he says he loves out of blind loyalty. Right? So we have that history coming into this book. And in this series, he's still just someone who is incapable of seemingly being loyal to what he really believes. We do see him grow a lot in this character, like in this story, but it takes a lot for him to get there. He has to lose a lot. Zélie herself even says at one point that you can't trust him. He will do the right thing when it's easy, but not when it's hard, and all he leaves us with are scars. And that sometimes rings true, but us as the readers get insight that she doesn't have. But then it does become a question of who is he really, what does he really want, and where does he stand? But I would say he does have one of the more triumphant storylines in the end, so that's nice. As for Zélie, she was very frustrating in this book. And honestly, I think that's one of the things that made the book really hard to read. Zélie is the main character. It should be her story. But this really felt like more of a Mari story, which was a bit annoying. And Zélie, even though she still does have significant roles, it feels like she took a back seat a lot in this series. And the thing that made that hard and frustrating is, I'll take it back to my Harry Potter reference. With Harry Potter, we had 7 books, right? So you didn't really get to see Harry Potter change character until about book 5, right? So we had time to grow with the character, learn the character, really become invested in the storyline, the history, and the future, right? We really cared about the outcome. And in this one, I feel like maybe it needed more than a 3-book deal, because I feel like she's trying to compress a lot into 3 books, and therefore she's it feels as if she's doing too much or trying to do too much because we don't have that character development, and it just makes it a challenging read. With all of that said, I enjoyed the story because I enjoyed the moments of magic. I enjoyed the fact that she really did try to show the bonds that were existing between what becomes the elders and those who are essentially younger magical folks who are looking up to them, and you get to see the beauty and the peace that exists when it's just them and they're not trying to fight against the titans for their well-being and the ability to just exist. So those were nice. I really enjoyed the moments between Zelly and Rowan. The three-way struggle between Zelly, Inan, and Rowan. I think that just always adds a layer of depth to any storyline. The love triangle and trying to choose between two individuals, and what does it mean to be bad? What does it mean to be good? What does any of that mean when love comes into play? And even if someone may be a horrible person, what does that mean when they show up for you? Or what does it mean when someone may seemingly on surface be the better choice, but they have made decisions that are disastrous and have harmed you? And who do you choose? And what do you do when what you believed may not actually be all that there is, right? So I think that in itself, the way that she often engages with the love triangle and the challenges and struggles innate and inherent within that are brilliant and beautiful moments. But that's not enough to sustain the entire book. Another thing that really frustrated me with this book is the fact that I felt Zane was the most underused character. He really had no role, and just because he has no magic does not mean that he should just be pushed to the side. I do feel like he has a lot to bring to the story, that character, and I really feel like she could play to that more, but for some reason in this book she didn't. And some of my frustrations with this book, I'm not sure if it's her or the editor, but I would even say the writing this time was upsetting for me. It didn't flow as smoothly. I didn't really feel drawn into the character's world all the time. I would tap in and tap out, and that's how the book felt. Like there may be a flow, it would be disrupted, and then you're trying to get it back again. So it was always constant starts and stops. And for a reader, that was just really displeasing for me. Also, the language that was used. So what was also tricky for me was that recently I watched an interview of hers, and she had said that she often feels as if she's writing fan fiction. And for me, reading this book, it's like once you see something, you can't unsee it, right? Because even before she said that, while I was reading it, I kept seeing remnants of The Last Airbender. I kept reading things that reminded me of Harry Potter. And you could definitely tell that this book or this series had deep influences from those sources. Also, the mystical aspects weren't enough. I don't really feel like she delved enough into not even like Orishan culture necessarily, though I do think that could be included more here. I felt like when she's discussing magic and the powers that exist within it, she didn't do enough to really explain it to us so that we as readers would fully understand. And I feel like that takes away from it. And some of those other stories that I mentioned, the thing is they lasted over such expanses of time that we got to really grow and build with them and learn more. As Aang learned more in The Last Airbender, we learned more. As Harry Potter, he didn't even know he was a wizard, right? So going in, he knew nothing. We learned with him. And I think the same thing should be happening with Zelly, because even though she has a magical mother, magic hasn't existed, and she's learning and she's growing, and we're not really seeing that. We see it a little bit as she's teaching Amari how to harness her magic, and as she's teaching the other magical folks how to use their magic, but it's not enough to sustain the story. And that is my frustration with this book. There are some good moments. There are not enough of them. Too many things are trying to be compressed into this one book, because I think that in book 3, she wants to be able to wrap it up. And I just think that she needs more than 3 books to tell this story, or to tell it the way in which I think she wants to. Also, the final thing that just made me want to throw this book against the wall was the ending. The ending was so bad, in my opinion. It's such a horrible ending. And it's not even like a cliffhanger that really makes you want to know what's happening. It seems as if it came out of left field, and I feel like she's doing it because she's trying to send a larger message, and I'm not even sure it's necessary here. Not that she cannot send the message, by all means, do that. But I feel as if it is something that could have been done in a less in-your-face type of way. Something that would have been more artistic, more online with the story and the universe in which she's trying to create. And maybe she's doing this intentionally. I just didn't prefer it. I feel as if, as an artist, you could have done this more eloquently. And I don't want to tell you all what it is because I want you to read it for yourself. I just feel as if it was too blatant. It was too obvious. It was kind of like the easy grab, like the low-hanging fruit. And I definitely feel as if she could have done it in a different way. She could have done it in a better way. I just feel as if this book, I don't know if it was rushed. I don't know what it is. But I think that this book could have been better. I feel as if even if she took longer, I just feel as if the story itself feels, I don't even want to say rushed. Maybe she had the time that she needed, but it just feels as if it needed more time. And not necessarily more time with the writing. There just needed to have been more there, right? Like, you know how you take a bottle of wine and you pour it into another vessel and it's allowed to breathe, and therefore you get the aroma and the taste is richer? That's what this book needed. It needed space to breathe, and that never happens here. Everything is compressed. Everything is compounded to try to get it into what we have in our hands, but it needed more. It needed time to breathe, needed time to grow. We needed more time with the characters. We needed the story to have developed slower so that we could have been more invested. That's my opinion. There are also typographical errors throughout, and at first I was like, oh, that's cute, kind of like in the Harry Potter series, you know, like there's one typo, so if you have that one of the first one, you really have like this extreme collector's edition that's so special. But there were numerous throughout, and that was also frustrating. So, though it pains me to say it, if I had to give this book a grade, it would be a C minus. I can't give it a D. It's not horrible. It's not the worst thing ever. So just for me as a reader and an appreciator of words and literature, for me, this just did not get it done. And it breaks my heart, but I'm not necessarily rushing or feeling the same excitement for the third installment. And obviously I'm going to read it because I do want to know how the story ends, and I do still have hopes that it will improve. But for me, this just was not it. It just wasn't. So yeah, that is my review of The Children of Virtue and Vengeance. If you all have read it, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope that everyone is staying safe out there with COVID-19, practicing social distancing, but also still finding ways to be in connection and have community, because that's so important. So yeah, that's it for me, y'all. MsMalcolmHughes here. More book reviews will be coming. If you want to know what I'm reading this month, please go check my March reads. And yeah, so until next time, as always, please remember to give time, and to have the best day of your life on purpose. And please stay safe and stay in contact and reach out. Talk to me on Instagram. Comment with me here. I'm always here. I love you guys, and I appreciate all of your support and you watching my videos. So until next time, peace. Also, for those of you inquiring, I do still have buttons, my Ms. Malcolm Hughes pins, and the details on how to get those are below.